Hey, happy Monday, everyone. Jo Madden here, and this is Last Call, your primetime preview here on Wager Talk, and we've got a heck of a game to go over today. It is time to talk the national championship game, with this one kicking off here shortly. Miami taking on Indiana, and what a breakdown we're going to have for you guys. Mark Zinno is going to be joining us, as well as Steve Merril. We're going to go over everything that they're liking, so make sure you get in the live chat here. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments. I want to know who you are rooting for as we go over everything here, because we got a great breakdown to go through everything that I'm liking and the guys are liking. So let's jump straight into it. Let's start opening those lines. And you guys, I encourage you to open up your Odds Logic page over on Odds Logic. If you haven't checked it out before, you can check out all the odds across the books. Set the books to the ones that you're normally betting on, so you're always getting the best of those lines. So looking at how we got here, Miami, Florida, the opening line, they were an 8.5-point dog. We've seen that movement to 7.5. Now 7.5 across the majorities of the books. I am seeing one of the global books sitting at a 7 there for Indiana. As for the total, 48.5, it has dropped. Now I'm still seeing a 48.5. And then the majority of the books are 46. It's really interested to see that 48.5, because that is a US book that is sitting with the 48.5, and you're not laying juice. It's minus 110, just like the other ones are. So definitely shop those lines, get the best of the numbers, depending if you want to go over or under. There's a 47 out there, but the rest of them sitting at that 46.5. So a lot of difference out there across the books. But how we got here, you guys, it's been a crazy roller coaster. It's hard to believe Indiana could be the first team to go 16-0 and take the national championship. And we got to talk to these guys if this means they are the best team ever in college football to be able to get this done, or if they look at the schedule, or what their thoughts are on that. Miami rolling in here with their win over Ole Miss in the semifinals. They were able to beat Ole Miss 31-27. And of course, Indiana just destroyed Oregon. And I'm shocked with what we saw out of Indiana in that game. They won it 56-22. And I was expecting a little bit more, you guys, out of Oregon in that matchup. But you saw as soon as that pick six came early in that game, it was just like Indiana wasn't able to get things, or Indiana was going to be able to run away with it. Oregon wasn't going to be able to get anything done. So this is going to be quite the battle between these two teams. I'm going to ask these guys about the thoughts on the coaching, the thoughts on the quarterbacks, where they think the strength is going to be. My biggest question here for Miami is, can Carson Beck not make those mistakes out there on the field? We know he's got that experience, but Carson Beck, once he throws one interception, you know that second one is coming. The defenses here on both sides are going to have to step up. Now, also, it's going to come down to, in my opinion, the line of scrimmage. Who can battle it out? Who can win in the trenches? If you're winning in the trenches, I think you're winning in this game. So let's go, you guys. Welcome to Golden Brown as the new member here on Wager Talk. You guys, if you haven't checked out and become a member of Wager Talk over here on YouTube, make sure you do so, and hit that like, hit that subscribe and notification bell as well. And drop those questions in. Mark Zinno's ready. We're going to bring him in. Let's start chatting with him. Let's talk this national championship game. Mark, great to see you here today.
Joe, good to be with you as always. Good to see you here. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely been a hot minute, Mark. That's for sure. National championship, when the college football season kicked off, did you foresee either of these teams sitting here?
Well, I think Miami, was always had an outside chance. I mean, they play in the ACC, which gave them a easier path to the college football playoff, more so than other schools. As much as Indiana was in the college football playoff last year, we thought they were good. I don't know if we ever thought they were this good, but about halfway through the season, you had to really take Indiana seriously as a team that could be in this spot, given how much they distanced themselves from everybody else and how well they played. So I don't think we're surprised that Indiana is here now. But, yeah, at the beginning of the season, a lot of people didn't think that this is the way it was going to go.
Now, was there one game that you watched for Indiana where you stood up and really took notice of this team and said, hey, like, this team just won here? This is where you had a turning point, or was it just overall?
No, I think after you had 4 or 5 sort of games where they were putting up 50 and only giving up 10, right? Like when you saw through the beginning of the year, this was a team that, and I think the Illinois win was really the one where they won 63-10, And it was like Illinois was this team it was 4-0 at the time. And I think that they were, looked like they were tracking inside the top 10. And then 2 weeks later, they go on the road and they beat Oregon at Alton Stadium. You're like, okay, we have to start noticing how good this team really is. So for me, I think it came that early, but I just, I didn't really feel like this was the best team in the country, probably till we got to about week 8 or 9. And it was like, yeah, I don't think this train is slowing down anytime soon.
Absolutely. So Indiana coming into this game 15-0, you guys. Miami, on the other hand, coming in 13-2. Now, I know there was some people that didn't expect Miami to make the college football playoffs with the record, with those 2 losses they took. Did you think they were deserving? Obviously deserving with what we've seen out of them in the playoffs, but were you one of those people who was kind of sitting on the edge if Miami deserved to be here?
No, I thought Miami deserved to be in. I thought Notre Dame deserved to be in. I really thought Oklahoma was the team that should have been left out. I mean, honestly, that was the weak, other than the 2 non-Power 5, Power 4 schools, that was the weakest school in the tournament. So I think that Miami deserved to be here, but the committee, once again, with their weird sort of standards for who gets in and who doesn't, and they're moving goalposts nonstop on whether conference championship games count or not and everything else. I mean, look, there's a lot that has to be changed, but yes, I thought Miami belonged here. So I didn't know if they would survive as much as they did. I knew how good they were in the trenches on both sides of the ball on the offensive and defensive line. I just didn't know that, they would have enough offense to get through this whole thing. And obviously they do because they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge wins for them over Texas A&M as an underdog. Then to take down the Buckeyes, that was an unbelievable game on what they were able to do. They've proven that this team can win the battles in the trenches. So we're going to get into that, your thoughts on the trenches. Before we do, I want to ask you here on the coaching. Who do you think has the strength with the coaching side of things?
It's got to be Cignetti. I mean, look, I've joked around several times that Mario Cristobal would never get my money just because I don't trust him. And that's, he hasn't had that moment this year where he's made that coaching decision that makes you scratch your head and go, what the hell is he doing? So we haven't had that so far to this point this year. And I don't think it'll come tonight, to be honest with you. I mean, if it does, Miami could be dead in the water. But I just, I think Cignetti is got this whole different level. And, when you talk about sort of how he coaches the game, like it doesn't matter if he's up by 30. He's still coaching it like he's down by a touchdown. He has absolutely no qualms whatsoever about continuing to keep his foot on the pedal and step on your throat and choke you out as quick and as often as possible. And he is not shy about, for lack of a better way to phrase it, running the score up. He's just going to keep scoring. You have to stop him. He's going to make you stop him for 60 minutes.
Yeah, he absolutely will. So it's going to be an intense battle between these 2 teams. We've got Mendoza coming in, taking the Heisman, and he's only got better in the college football playoffs here since getting that Heisman. 41 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. On the other side, Carson Beck, I mentioned at the top, if Carson Beck makes those errors out there, Indiana could run away with this game. Do you think Carson Beck could come in and play an error-proof game in this one?
Yeah, because, I mean, look, the first 2 games of the college football playoff, they didn't ask him to do anything. They just asked him not to make a mistake, and he didn't. And he held his own against Texas A&M and clearly did the same thing against Ohio State. He was asked to make plays down the stretch against Ole Miss, and he made them. And I think that's probably the most simple formula for success here for Miami is that you don't ask him to do too much. You just ask him to make certain plays in certain moments and see if he can show up big. And look, I think the fact that he's played in a lot of these big games at Georgia tells you he's not overwhelmed by the moment. But I don't think this Miami offense is one that sort of scares anybody. I think that they are a team that is competent enough to score when needed, but I don't think they scare anybody. This doesn't feel like when you get outside of ACC play and it's Miami isn't taking on the dregs of Stanford and Syracuse and NC State, right? Like, sure, they could put up 40 against those teams, but when you ask them to do it against legitimate defenses in big games, that's not what happens. And I don't think Carson Beck is going to be asked to do all that much, but he's just got to make enough plays when he's asked to do it that he's going to help that team stay in the game.
Absolutely. As my light just shines so bright in here, not sure the sun is just shining in here, so apologies to you guys. I want to ask you about that offensive line, though, for Indiana. Can they stop this pass rush here of Miami? Miami's going to be all over Mendoza in this game unless that offensive line can hold for him. Do you think they're able to give him the time there?
Yeah. I would question more whether Miami's offensive line will give enough running lanes to make the running game effective, because that's what Miami is going to need here. I think, again, as I said, Miami's one of the best teams in the trenches in the country, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They got first-round draft picks on both sides of the ball that are going to the NFL coming in late April. So they are qualified enough to be able to do that. But can they as a whole create enough running lanes? Because if Miami can't run the ball, and as we just talked about, Joe, like if we're asking Carson Beck here to throw 35 times against this Indiana defense, it's a recipe for failure for the Hurricanes. Like I don't see that's a positive game script. In order to keep Miami within one score, they've got to control the clock, keep the ball out of Indiana's hands, and continue to move the ball down the field and play field position games as often as they can. And without running the football, and when not be able to run the football with some success, I don't know that they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got the blind shot, you guys. It's just a little bit more extra light, so apologies for that. But I want to give a big shout out to Big Sis Lisa, who's in the comments. She's always in everything here. She says a big shout out to everyone. She wants to know, Mark, if Miami's offense, or what Miami's offense must do in this game to beat Indiana.
As I just said, they have to be able to run the ball. Look, how good they are on third down is going to be really telling, right? I mean, just go back and look at the box scores from, their previous wins. I mean, this is a team that held, again, Oregon 8 for 13 on third down overall. But in the first half, I think Oregon only had 2 first downs in that game. A lot of that came when they were down, late in the second half. You can go back and look at what they did in the first matchup that they played in the first college football playoff game against Alabama. I mean, it wasn't even close. Alabama was 3 for 11 on third down. So they have to be able to continue to move the chains and sustain long drives. Even if they don't turn it into points, they've got to figure out a way to continue to hold on to the football and make this a game similar to what Indiana had to deal with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. If they could turn it into that, they're going to give themselves a chance here, because that was a game where you see, even though Ohio State was 4 of 12, guess what? They did their job defensively to keep Indiana from moving the football and keep it close. Look, I think this much, Joe, and I from a game script standpoint, Miami has to win the first 30 minutes. They have to be able to stay within a field goal within the first 30 minutes of this thing, because I can put together a lot of game scripts for both sides being able to win this game. I think there's more for Indiana, to be perfectly honest. But the one game script I can't get past is if Indiana is up 20-3 at half and Miami comes storming back in the second half. That does not happen unless Indiana makes multiple mistakes and gives the game back to Miami. And I don't see that happening because they're too well coached, and Curt Cignetti is too good of a coach in managing the game. I don't see that happening. So Miami has to win the first 30 minutes, be tied, have a field goal lead, or stay within a field goal if they have any chance to win this game in the second half. I don't even if it's 17-7, Joe, I don't like their chances of coming back down 2 scores in the second half, because Indiana is just too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And those mistakes will come, I do believe, in that second half if they are down by that. So should we be looking at a first half bet then here, Mark?
I mean, I could endorse Miami plus the 4.5 in the first half. Like, it was an angle that I was pretty much on, leading up to the game. It's where I thought I would go. It's not what I ended up settling on, but I would endorse it. Like, it was certainly something I considered very strongly just from that standpoint, because, I mean, look, there is a world, though, where Indiana's up 17-3 at half, right? Like, and the 4.5 doesn't. And look, you hold Indiana, they could be up 14-3, and you hold Indiana to just 14 points and a half. Not many teams this year said that they can do that. So that's a win for Miami. But offensively, if they can't figure it out, I don't know what makes them all of a sudden at halftime think there's going to be this world of adjustments where they're going to figure it out in the second half. And the only way they do is if they do, Indiana just says, okay, we'll let you go down the field and make it long, sustained drives, because at the end of the day, all we're really fighting is the clock. But, I don't know that there is a world where Miami can play catch up against this Indiana team.
Okay, so we're going to jump into the total in just 1 second. We do have a question in the comments about that, but I want to ask you first, Mark, what would shock you more? Indiana completely blowing out Miami here, or Miami getting the upset win?
Miami getting a win wouldn't shock me. I mean, look, what would shock me is if Miami won this thing by 2 scores. That would shock me. I think this Indiana, as we saw against Oregon, they can blow you out. They can blow anybody out. right? Like that shouldn't surprise anybody. And it's not necessarily going to surprise me if Miami wins. It'll surprise me if Indiana beats themselves. If Indiana plays a mistake-filled game where they make mistakes and keep the team around. I mean, look, go back to the game at Penn State that they almost lost, right? Like, they didn't turn the ball over more than Penn State in that game. In fact, Penn State had more turnovers. They held on to the ball longer. They ran for more yards in the game. Like, it was one of those things where you look at, Indiana and like, they didn't play a bad game and they almost lost that one, and go the same thing against Ohio State, the Big Ten championship game. Like, Indiana doesn't beat themselves. That would surprise me. If Indiana has 3 turnovers in this game, that would surprise me, because I don't think they've had that all year long in any game. But the point simply is that they don't beat themselves. So I think if that's the way Miami wins, that Indiana beats themselves, that would surprise me.
Okay, before we jump into any player props that you guys might be questioning, let's jump into this total here with Mark. Mark, this total, there's differences on the books. It's really interesting to see. We do have an onshore book at 48.5, and then the rest of the books are sitting there at 46.5. There's 147 floating around. What are your thoughts on this total? How does this one play out?
Well, there's not as many key totals as in college as there are in the NFL, but 47 and 48 are theoretically 2 of the key totals that we talk about. So where odds makers have put this thing at 46.5, because again, 27-20, is a final that works. 28-20 is a final that works, and Indiana covers by a hook, right? Like, so we're right in that range where I think it's possible. I would tell you this much: look, if you're on Miami, you're on the under. I think they're 1,000% correlated. I don't think Miami wins a shootout game against Indiana. Not that one would develop. By the way, that would be shocking, right? A shootout developing in this game would be very shocking, because I just don't see Miami having that sort of firepower against a competent defense like this. But, the over doesn't favor Miami, because as I said, I don't think they could play catch up. I don't think they could play keep up with India. They can't go score for score with Indiana on offense over the course of 4 quarters. I don't see that happening. So it's the under of Miami. It's Indiana and the over. But it's weird, because I think the one way this thing definitively does get over is if Miami gets to 20. Right? I think that's the key number for Miami from a scoring standpoint. Like, if they can get to 20, and remember, their team total here, what is it, 19.5?
Yeah, it is 19.5.
There's a world where they lose 30-20, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it goes over, because what you don't really know is how much you account for how much Indiana is really going to be able to score. Will it be like A&M, Miami and A&M? Will it be like Ohio State and Indiana, where it's low scoring and gross and ugly? Or does Indiana open up a can of whoop ass like they did against Oregon, and they're out 21-0 in a blink of an eye, and you're like, what the hell just happened? So, there's some variance there in that. I'm always going to lean under. I'm always going to look for unders. That's just kind of the way I go. But I think that, it goes back to an old adage that I've said for years when we talk about, unders and overs. Like, if it ain't going under early, it probably ain't going under late. So if you can find a world where you think that, there is a play for you, in the first half, as a first half under at 23.5, 23, it's tough, because you get to 24.5, Joe. If there's a 24.5 out there in an offshore book and you're in that world, I would take the 24.5. It's a much more favorable number than the 23.5. But, and I would tell you, the way that we go over 24.5 or 23.5 for that matter, is if Miami gets to 10 in the first half.
Which is interesting, because that's their team total. 9.5 is their team total. Under the 9.5 has the juice. The over is slight juice, but it's like right around the -105. So you got a team total there. Indiana's team total is 13.5. You're going to have to lay the juice to the over for them in the first half. It's going to be a battle, and you would think this would start off as a chess match here in the first half, but with what Indiana did versus Oregon, I'm a little worried with these totals. Not going to lie here, Mark, because I don't know if I've got a little bit of recency bias, like some people were saying was built into this line coming in when it was at 8.5 for Indiana, but I don't want to step in front of that train.
Well, here's the thing to remember, and even go back. Here's the other part about the first half under that I think is viable. Go back to the game against Alabama, right? It was 17-0 at half. That was it. They only scored 17 points because Indiana scored all 17. I know, that was a scoreless first quarter, by the way, between both teams. So, I think there's a world where that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's, 21-3 if you have a 24.5, right? I think, 17-3, 20-3, I think all those are viable. And remember, in general, blowouts typically stay under because one team is 41-6 still keeps us right in that same spot, right? 37-10, all these numbers are right there at the total. So there's a lot of there's a lot of different ways this game can go. As I said, I continue to put game script together where we get multiple outcomes that all fit the same thing. So it makes this a little bit tough to handicap because I think there's a lot of variance in the way this thing could go. But I think we'll know pretty early on in this game. One of the other interesting sort of sweat bets and cute bets you can do if you want to go alternate market. Like I could endorse Miami +3 in the first quarter.
Okay.
I mean, 7-3 makes you a loser, but like it's just like all you're saying here. If Miami puts up any points, it's a ton of pressure on Indiana to cover that, right? One punt and you might be putting yourself in danger, especially if Miami takes the ball first and kills some clock, and then Indiana gets the ball and they have to punt. Now you're talking about like you got one other possession really in the first quarter to go out and score a touchdown, and again, we welcome in a ton of variance when that happens. There could be an opening kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, who knows? A defensive touchdown, but typically that's feels like a coin flip bet, and getting 3 in a world where you could even push, like theoretically could be 10-7 at the end of the quarter. I don't think it's that bad.
No, it's not that bad at all. I like where you're going. Mark, before we get into any of the player props that you might be looking at or any of the players that people should take note of, what have you got for a sale for us?
I have a play in the national championship game tonight up at Picks and Parlays, so you can go to my page over there, picksandparlays.net. And don't forget as well, there is a special going on for the morning wager. If you guys haven't seen the morning wager, it's back with me and Brian Power. You get a buy one, get one 3-day pass for $69. So it's available on my page and Brian Power's page over at picksandparlays.net. So go check it out.
Yeah, and you guys have been crushing that. That drops 5 days a week, correct, Mark? Monday to Friday?
Monday to Friday.
Okay, you guys make sure you head on over to Picks and Parlays to check that out. But Mark, before we let you go, what players should we be looking at in this game? What are you expecting out of the running backs, the wide receivers here? You mentioned the defensive touchdown. Do you think Indiana could get a pick 6 if Carson Beck is wildly throwing that ball in the fourth quarter? What are your thoughts on this one with the players?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, Fernando Mendoza as an anytime touchdown wouldn't surprise me because I don't think he's immune from running with his legs and taking off and doing that. I think he does what he needs to do to win games in certain spots. I think when we look at, rushing yards for Mark Fletcher, like I said, if Mark Fletcher can't get the 70 rushing yards, this feels like it has the making of a blowout, right? He's at 69.5 right now. If he can't run the ball with any sense of authority and consistency, I don't like the spot there for Miami at all. I think, a lot of this stuff continues to be correlated. And Fernando Mendoza over 223.5. He continues to soar over these numbers. Like, here's the thing about Carson Beck at 201. And I did actually take Carson Beck over passing yards in the game against Ole Miss because here's what happens. I mean, yes, I keep talking about them running the ball, but if the game script develops, Joe, that Miami is down and they come out in the second half, what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to throw. They're going to have to throw. And even to a certain extent of passing attempts for Carson Beck, which is getting close to 30, which is kind of scary. I still think that's viable in a world where Indiana is out to a big lead and forcing Miami to throw a lot.
Yeah, they're going to have to if they get behind in this one. So, which puts him into danger here for that interception. But I do think if he gets one, he gets two. You've got those passing touchdowns for Carson Beck over 1.5. If he finds a way, it's coming in at +168. You guys, we know he does have weapons out there. His receivers out there are strong. I can't say his first name all of a sudden. Tony is his last name. Malachi is his first name. So Malachi Tony has been so strong at getting that ball. He does have a receiving prop of 60.5, which was something I was looking at because we know if Carson Beck can get those bombs down the field, we could see that. But Mark, you've got a pick tonight in the national championship game. What other sports are you covering for everyone, just to let them know?
A lot of college hoops as we dive right into it now. I mean, obviously, we went 2-0 yesterday in college hoops and the NFL. So we still got championship weekend coming up. A lot of college hoops this week that we'll get through Tuesday all the way through Saturday. So some big games coming up tomorrow and on Wednesday. They'll all be over at my page at picksandparlays.net.
Awesome, Mark. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on Last Call. Absolutely dominate the books tonight. I know you will.
Thank you. See you.
Good to see you, Mark. You guys, that was Mark Zinno. If you're looking for all of his best bets, make sure you do head on over to picksandparlays.net. There's lots of great specials happening over there right now, including 26% off of all of Mark's picks using coupon code NEW26. Now, this is for the month of January, so it will be expiring on the 31st at midnight. But if you head on over there, you can apply that 26% across the board. So we brought in Mark. He broke down everything. I'm talking everything you absolutely needed to know on this national championship game. But don't go anywhere, you guys. Steve Merril will be joining us here at the top of the hour. We got a couple of minutes before he does to go over some of the things that I was looking at in this game. Now, I agree with Mark. If Miami is able to go over 19.5 points, they have every opportunity of getting this win. When Miami was an 8.5-point dog, I kind of liked them a little bit more than I did for the full game. A little bit more than I did with the 7.5. I think they have the ability to keep it tight, especially in the first half, like Mark was saying. They should be able to come out strong. Now, they do have the weapons out there, but my biggest fear in this one comes down to Mendoza versus Carson Beck. And then you look at the trenches and who's going to be able to win the battle in the trenches. We know Miami is technically at home, all right? They're playing at home. They will have to be in the visiting locker rooms, but is that an advantage or a disadvantage to this team is another question that I have in this one, because they did play better out there on the road than they did at home. So we're going to see it. The fan base, I really think, is going to be split. I know Indiana will have to travel, but they will travel here to support their team. The Miami fans are going to be in the building as well. This is going to be an epic one between these two teams. So I rolled with Miami's team total over 19.5. I think somehow they find a way. I couldn't write them off, but I also couldn't step in front of Indiana and really grab Miami at this point, plus the 7.5. So it's Miami's team total over the 19.5. Looking at the props here for the quarterbacks, Mendoza, the 223.5. I'm with Mark in this one. I think he can nicely go over that 223.5. I want to bet his passing touchdowns, but again, way too much juice. You're looking at passing touchdowns over 1.5 coming in at minus 166. So you're not getting the value there. Now, can Carson Beck find a way? He's going to have to find a way if Miami has the opportunity to be able to get things done. Even though I know they come out with a solid run game, they do put Carson Beck in the situations when they're down that he is going to have to throw this up. Indiana's expecting that run. I think they're going to win in the trenches. So I do think Carson Beck will have to find a way to get past that front seven. The over 1.5 passing touchdowns, I think, is worth a little bit of a sprinkle, you guys. That's coming in at plus 168. So I don't think it's out of question. I did look at also at the rushing props and the receiving props. I love Malachi Toney here for Miami to go over the 60.5 receiving yards. And I know the public loves betting the overs. I wanted to find some unders. I just couldn't get there. But I did look at Cooper for Indiana over his 48.5 receiving yards as well. Now, this has ticked up a little bit. It was 46.5 earlier in the day. And looking at that run game, you guys, we got to look at Hemby for Indiana, especially if Indiana finds a way to get up in this game. And I think it would be a nice kind of game plan here to wait on Hemby, because if Indiana gets up, we're going to see him utilized more on the ground in the second half. I think his numbers in the first half might be a little lighter, so we could see this number moving down. I would love to see this number hit right around 58.5 and then fire it to the over. Right now, it's 62.5. I still think he's able to get there. And then you got to talk about Mark Fletcher here for Miami. So solid, but again, that's another prop. It kind of makes me a little nervous, because if Indiana gets up big, Miami's not going to have that opportunity to play the ground game. So Fletcher coming in at 69.5. I think this is probably the best of the number. I think his prop will work in the opposite direction, where he gets up big in the first half, and then in the second half, they're going to have to pass the ball more, and then maybe you can come back in on an under if this one hits too high. So those are the things I'm looking at, but we got Steve Merril here, and we're going to bring him in, and let's start talking of the national championship game with him. Steve, happy Monday.
Hey, Joe. Happy Martin Luther King Day here in America, and I
Yep.
guess nationwide, worldwide as well. But yeah, the Canadians didn't quite get the federal holiday that we got, I guess.
Oh yeah, I forgot you guys had a federal holiday
That is
there today
true.
on
That's why
Monday.
there are
Well,
all
thank
the
you.
early games today, all the early college and pro basketball games.
Yeah, it took me a minute this morning looking at like all of the games so early and everything on the ice as well. And I was like, what's today? And then I realized what today was. So happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone out there. But Steve, you've got this national championship we're going to talk. We're also going to talk some basketball with you. So let's get into the national championship game here because this one's kicking off pretty quick. Miami versus Indiana. This is going to be a big game. Can Miami pull off the upset, or you're rolling with Indiana to just steamroll?
Well, I will say, if you think Miami's going to pull off the upset, you definitely want to put some of it on the money line because historically the point spread just doesn't matter in these national title games. In fact, it's been that way in the Super Bowl for decades as well. And it almost appears, Joe, that we're in that era of blowouts like we were at the Super Bowl back in the 80s and 90s, in which they couldn't set the point spread high enough. You know, the look-ahead line a week ago before the semifinals, it wasn't even a look-ahead line. It was a bettable line. DraftKings, FanDuel, many of the books had it, was Indiana minus 5.5 against Miami if that was going to be the matchup. And right after Indiana romped Oregon, the line was instantly 7.5, quickly bet up to 8.5. Has settled back down to 7.5 this week. As we near kickoff, you know, you're probably not going to find too many key sevens out there. The public was pretty split on this game, I thought, as well. So if you're going to play this one, you got to decide, do you like Indiana to basically win by more than 7? I am seeing some sevens juiced out there, so that is a kind of an attractive number, but mostly 7.5s. But the thing is, the point spread normally doesn't matter. And the reason I say that, if you look at the last 6 national championship games, all 6 favorites have not only won straight up, but they've covered, and all 6 have won by double digits. In fact, all 6 games the last 6 years have had 47 points or more scored, and that's the total tonight. Now, these are 2 really good defenses, but as we often see, these championship games open up in the second half. We saw the Miami Ole Miss game last week have 3 points in the first quarter and then still get over the total. So if you like an under, you probably want to play it earlier than later. If you like the over, you do the full game. I like where you're going with the team total, by the way. I really think no matter which side you like, playing that team total over makes a lot of sense. Hard to imagine Miami can win this game without getting at least 19.5 points. And also, I think Indiana team total over 27.5 is worth a look. I like Indiana in this game. They're the better team on both sides of the ball. And yes, 7.5 versus 5.5 a week ago, you're losing some value, but my 10,000 game simulation favors the Hoosiers by 8.5. So I think the line is fair. And their team total of 27.5 up and over that makes a lot of sense as well if they win it, as I think they will.
What do you think here of Miami secondary? Because we did see in that last game versus Ole Miss, they allowed 8 passes to Chambliss of 15 or more yards. Do you think Mendoza is going to be able to come out here and capitalize on those errors that Miami had in the last game? Or do you think Miami's going to clean that up a little bit coming into this one?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind also, Miami had 3 of their top 4 defensive backs banged up or out by the end of that game. It looks like the 2 injured guys are going to be back, but the one targeting call, of course, he's going to miss the first half tonight. So that is another reason I'd be a little lukewarm with that first quarter, first half under, because Miami's secondary was actually being a little bit of a disadvantage, missing one of their starters here when things begin. So that also could favor some big pass plays from Indiana early in this game. I think the Hoosiers team total over 27.5 is a good play. So that would definitely correlate with some big yardage plays from receivers, running backs, Mendoza, however you want to cut it from the props.
Okay, Steve, I love where you're going with this one. You've got some basketball for us. What are you betting up there on the hardwood?
Yeah, so I'll give you a college game that goes here at 8 o'clock Eastern. And this is obviously a pretty ugly card tonight. There's just 3 games on the board. But one of them at 8 o'clock Eastern is Montana State, Northern Colorado. And not a game a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. But I like the under in this game for a few reasons. First of all, we saw some sharp money this morning drop this total from 156 down to 152.5. And that caught my attention. So I dug a little bit deeper into this. And there's a couple sneaky matchup edges here that I think also favor the under tonight. First of all, both teams get very few percentage of their points from the free throw line. They both rank bottom 50 in the country, getting less than 30% of their points from the free throw line. Free throws are free points, obviously, and they're also during the clock stoppage. So when neither team scores from the free throw line, that always gets me looking under. And another thing, neither team gives up many 3-point shots. So you have neither team giving up a lot of threes, neither team allowing or not getting to the free throw line. I like the under in this one between Montana State and Northern Colorado. A little bit of a sneaky total play for you, Joe, under 152.5 at 8 Eastern.
Ooh, I like where you're going there. Do you have anything in the NBA for us, Steve?
Yeah, so let's look at the big national TV game at 8 Eastern. NBC, national TV, NBC and Peacock. We've got Boston and Detroit, perhaps the two best teams in the Eastern Conference right now. This could be a Eastern Conference preview. Money's been coming in on Boston today. It opened 4.5. It's down to 2.5 now. Does look like Peyton Pritchard's going to play. He's going to return after missing the last couple of games. Not sure, though, the Celtics are going to necessarily work him back into the lineup, and he's going to be effective when he's been out for a couple of games. And so, therefore, I would also lean under here. I like the Pistons minus 2.5. I think this line's a little short now. They've beaten Boston 2 out of 3, but the money's coming on the under today, 226.5, now down to 223.5. I agree with that move. Another game in which I'd like the under. And if this is a playoff-style game, which I think it will be, we usually see a little bit more defensive intensity in those type of games. Take a look at Pistons and Celtics under 223.5. That's the national TV game on NBC at 8 Eastern, so you can flip back and forth between basketball and some hoops tonight.
Yeah, you definitely can. Pritchard, just for reference, you guys, his player prop coming in at 15.5. The juice is to the under, but I'd be looking at him to go under that number. I completely agree with you, Steve. This should be a lower scoring game. So you guys shop those lines over at Odds Logic. There's a couple of movements on some of the books. But Steve, one last question for you. If Indiana comes out here, blows them out tonight, going 16-0, are they one of the best teams all time in college football?
So over the last 100 years, they are officially the worst college football team of all time. How crazy is that? They are the losingest team. I think if you go back like teams that have played for over 100 years, they have the worst record, like 42% overall. And now we're talking about them maybe being the best, one of the best teams ever. And it sounds crazy, Joe, but if you look at the metrics, they are really good. I rank them as one of the best offenses and defenses in the country. Like you just said, they're undefeated, the only undefeated team. More wins maybe than ever, I guess. I'd have to look that up. What would they be? You said, would they be 15 or 16-0? What would it be?
16-0.
I mean, how would they? Tonight. I mean, no one's gone 17-0 as far as I know.
No.
Crazy. Hey, yeah. I hadn't looked into this. Somebody mentioned this to me this afternoon that I knew Mark Cuban was an Indiana grad. I didn't think about this, but apparently, I guess he's been given probably good to the NIL. Never considered that. He just sold the Mavericks recently, right? Is this basically like his new sports team? No wonder why they got so good so fast. Because Cignetti's done an incredible job. He did it at James Madison as well. But they've also gotten some players. And, yeah, this is a powerhouse team. And that's another reason why, yes, the line is inflated, but I don't look to fade the better team in title games. Anything can happen tonight. It would not shock me if Indiana lost, but I do think they're the better team on both sides of the ball.
What do you think everyone's thoughts on Cignetti is going to be if he's able to get this team the national championship here? Like, will he dismiss some of the hate that he's had over the years?
Yeah, he's really done an incredible job. I mean, he obviously was with Saban at Alabama, but people forget he turns around in Elon, an FCS program. Elon, they became a playoff team right away. Obviously, James Madison was a national power. What's impressive, too, is he leaves JMU, and JMU's still a national power. They're playing in the playoffs this year. But what he did at Indiana last year, his first year there, was remarkable, making the playoffs. Now they're the best team in the country. There was talk that he maybe would go to Penn State. He's a Pittsburgh guy, so he'd want the Penn State job. And I was like, why would you want that? He is a god. He could do no wrong for the next 10 years at Indiana. And now the Steelers' job is opened up. And once again, he's a Pittsburgh guy. Once again, nothing surprises me anymore, especially after that whole Lane Kiffin fiasco. But if you're interested in a quality of life, they're going to pay him. He's going to be able to win. And I almost think it's more fun to win somewhere that's never won, right? I mean, it's like the Steelers have Super Bowls. Penn State has championships. He will go down as an icon at Indiana instantly in about 4 hours from now if they do hold on and win this thing, as once again, they're the worst college football team of the past century.
Yeah. It's completely insane. We're seeing in the comments J-Dog saying he should take the Steelers job. It would be pretty incredible to see if he did that. But Steve, what do you got for sale for us on WagerTalk?
Yeah, so we got best bets each and every day. Don't forget tomorrow's $5 Tuesday, but don't wait till $5 Tuesday. I do have my top play for tonight's game still available, and also a ton of college and pro basketball this week. I'm number one in NBA best bet profit the past couple months, number one in NFL profit over the past year. Just a great time to get on board. 7 days for the price of 3 is still available this week. Buy 3, get 4 more days free. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. You get there quicker. WT.buzz/SM. And, of course, as you know, Joe, tons of free content here on the channel each and every day. I'm doing all the NFL playoff games. I'll have both the NFC and AFC championships this Sunday up later this week. So click subscribe, click the bell for instant alerts. We are now over 240,000 subscribers here on Wager Talk TV. I'm sure everyone watching is one of them. Just double check, click subscribe, because next stop, 250,000 subscribers here on Wager Talk TV for free.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. And Steve, I applaud you on all those videos that you're giving out. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on football in the NFL and what you're thinking for this Sunday. So you guys make sure you turn on the notification bell so you get Steve's thoughts as soon as they do drop here on Wager Talk. But Steve, enjoy the game tonight. Don't forget, you guys, Steve does have a play in the national championship game. You've got a matter of minutes to go on over and get it at wagertalk.com. Steve, all the best.
Thanks, Joe. Great seeing you.
Great seeing you as well. You guys, that's a wrap. We had Mark Zinno on and Steve Merril, and I want to thank both of the guys for joining me here on Last Call today. But let me know what you're liking tonight. If you really believe Miami's coming out and they're finding a way to get the win, drop it in the video here below. Bragging rights are always on the line when you hit huge plays like that, you guys. I want to hear all of your thoughts. If you got anyone for an anytime tutty, if you got any props out there, drop it below so people can follow along. Bet all the best in all of your bets. Enjoy the national championship game, and make sure you always stay tuned here to Wager Talk for all of the great content coming out. We'll see you next time, you guys.